Hi, this is Miss Jacobs, and this is our Learning Coach support session on using fractions with Legos. I love kind of introducing fractions through Legos because most kids associate that with something fun, and they really kind of already have the concepts in their head if they've been playing with Legos to begin with. So, as they learn fractions, manipulatives can truly help them understand that initial concept of parts of a whole. By providing them with multiple examples of different groupings of parts of a whole, they can begin to grasp the values of different fractions and how to combine fractions to create whole numbers. In the same way, they can also be used as manipulatives when you're introducing adding and subtracting fractions. I think it's really helpful for them to be able to visualize those pieces and actually put them together to complete the problems in the beginning. So, some of the things I'm going to be covering is preparation, how to kind of get a few kits ready. I just have these kind of around my house with different types of Legos that fit together for the concepts that you want to introduce. Then we'll talk about those concepts, equivalent fractions, and then adding and subtracting fractions. So, the first thing to do as you're preparing is to create a few different small bags of Legos with different parts of a whole. Thirds, fourths, eighths, tenths are a good start. And then you can kind of start mixing them up too as they get more advanced. Use small bags and keep the kits handy. I think it's best to start with just one set of groupings at a time to introduce them. You can also print a few handouts to help with adding and subtracting. I've got some resources at the end, or to kind of just help them organize their Legos, depending on if that's helpful for your family. So here's an example of a kit that I did once I started. I started with fourths, halves, three fourths, and one, and then I went ahead and added in eighths as my child started to understand more. So, for basic understanding of concepts, you really want them to just visually see the parts of a whole and be able to translate that into a fraction. So, for the kit for fourths, they should first be able to show you the blocks for each fraction: one quarter, one half, three quarters, and one, and see how they fit together to make a whole. Next to the blocks on a sheet of paper, you can have them go ahead and write that fraction number representing these blocks and repeat on all the different kits that you have. So they should be able to understand visually that if this is one whole, then we have one half over here and one quarter, and that two quarters make a half, four quarters make a whole, etc. So just let them play around with that, but make sure they are writing the fractions as they do, so they understand that connection to the written problems, because fractions are not necessarily intuitive. They don't always click right away. So the next step is to explore equal values. And I do a lot of just playing around with letting them see the parts of the whole next to each other. So one half equals two fourths. Just let them line those up and see that it's actually equal. And I use a whole often. This is one that I use a lot, just the whole, and then the four different parts that fit in. So four fourths equals one whole. And I would have my child go ahead and write that on the paper so that they understand that four fourths is the same as one if this larger Lego is their one. For adding and subtracting fractions, you're going to introduce combining the parts into a total. So these part total diagrams can be useful, so they can understand. And then I would also have them write, three fourths, one fourth, four fourths. It's easier if you start with common denominators and then move from there. Um, you can also have them make their own worksheet. You don't necessarily have to print them. Writing the problems and placing the Legos alongside helps them really understand the connection between the way the fraction is written and the concept. So I would start with the part total and then have them go ahead and write in their problems. And again, you want to start with the smaller parts like fourths and then move to larger parts like eighths or tenths as they get more comfortable understanding. The last thing, oh, here's an example. So here's how I would do one fourth plus three fourths equals four fourths equals one. So they can just write it out just like this on their paper. And they're really understanding how these combine conceptually before they get to having to do, adding and subtracting problems. And you can do the same thing with subtracting, just the opposite. So a couple of references I have for you. Scholastic actually has a couple good blogs on this. One that I referenced is Using Lego to Build Math Concepts by Alicia Zimmerman. And if you look and do a search under Using Lego to Build Math Concepts, this will come up for you. And then the second one is Legos and Fractions, a Math Task Adventure by Krisha Kabal. And again, if you search that title, that will come up for you. So thank you very much for joining me. And hopefully you'll have some fun gathering those Legos up to find the pieces to make the parts that you need. Have a great day. Thank you very much.